G'day gamers, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to go through a bit of a guide for the Rlcs 2026 here in the OCE region. Did this last year, people seem to enjoy having some sort of grasp on everything, so I'm going to do it again this year. So before we get started, I want to say a couple of things. Firstly, before we get fully into the guides and stuff and the team roster changes, whatever, this video is slightly late. The season has started. The double elim and the Swiss stage has already started for Open 1. But this video will be out before the main event this weekend, which I'll make sure to link to things in the description in terms of where to watch it or whatever. If I find those things out, I'm yet to hear if we have a main broadcast, so it might be team streams. It might just be given to one or two people to do the streams. I'm not sure. When I know, I'll update my Twitters, my socials, whatever. So make sure to follow all of those as well to keep up to date. Now, there is an elephant in the room for OCE this season, and that is the fact that we only have one seed at the Majors now, and the World Championship as well, unless we make the LCQ, which, with that being said, the LCQ is more likely for us now, considering we only have an average of one team, instead of the average of two teams, where typically last season, at least, our second seed was relatively finishing in the bottom of the Majors consistently, so that kind of affects if, say, wildcard at the World Championship. Let's say that's a major last season. They get a top 6, and TSM or Chiefs last season, they finish in bottom space. Then the average is really well and truly pulled down for the region. So there's a positive in the sense that at least we'll have a better chance to make the LCQ, but it's also, that's just a really positive way to look at a very unfun situation for OCE, where basically, yay, we have a better chance to have 2 seeds instead of we had the chance to have 3 seeds previously. It's not that great. It's an elephant in the room, as I said. It's really not fun as a caster of the region, as someone who really likes the region, to talk about it. It's pretty depressing, to be honest, but let's get into the more fun stuff. All right, so into the team business for this season. As we can see here, this is the same format I had for the same type of video last season. Different colors, different stuff, different teams, whatever. Slightly different on the right-hand side with the off-season info as well, but that is what it is. On the 2025 side, that's left. In the middle is 2026, and then the off-season info. Just some bits and pieces about where the players are going and whatnot. So up first, wildcard. As you can see, 2025, 2026, exactly the same. They got the top 6 at Worlds 2025. I don't need to tell anyone from OCE about that. They know about that. I don't need to tell anyone about that. It was really, really crazy that they made the top 6. They had an underperforming season compared to their standards at Majors. A couple of really not great performances. We expect them to go around 5 at Swiss at least, and that just didn't happen. But then they pop off at Worlds, and that's all that really matters to OCE. We're happy with that. They get the top 6, and the roster sticks. They go around once again. They formed in 2024, the RLCS 2024. That was when Banana Head came in for Amphis at the time on the power roster back then. There was that little bit last season where Gus was coming into the roster before the season started. They played some off-season events, and they decided, nope, we like the roster. We're going to go back to it. So yeah, they went back to the roster of Fever, Torsos, Banana Head, and Jimmer, and they rolled with it, and they continue to do so this season. As you can see on the left-hand side here, TSM, my team last season, had some real big fun casting for them and watch partying them last season as well. Amphis, Kaka, Super Locky, and Mock, they've all gone separate ways. As you can see on the right-hand side here, TSM disbands the organization out of OCE, out of RLCS at this stage as well. Super Locky joins Power, which is one of the orgs that have stayed in OCE alongside Wildcard. Amphis joins Turkish FC, and Kaka joins the Bulldogs, which we'll get into momentarily. And as a side note, Mock also joins You Not a Champ, You a Clown, which we'll get into that in a little bit further down the line. So for them, they're all moving on. We'll get into those teams in particular in a moment. For Chiefs, Hunter, Raziz, Fiber, LBP, Freaky, they've all gone separate ways as well. The only two that have really stuck is Freaky and Fiber, with them now both being on Power. As you can see, Fiber joins Power, Hunter joins Bulldogs, Raziz returns to EU with Magnifico, which is Tox and Atomic, I think. Not certain, I'd have to check. Let me do so. Yep, I've checked. That's the roster. So it's Atomic, Tox, and Raziz. So Raziz headed back over to EU. He's done with his holiday in OCE. The season was all that he needed to head back home. So Chiefs no longer in the scene either. The organization seemingly not interested in returning this season, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And the other part that doesn't actually mention here is that LBP now on Ninjas in Pajamas over in EU. Great stuff for him. As of right now, they have a top 4. They're headed over to the kickoff LAN. LBP coaching top 4 side in EU. We love to see it. Going to be one of those teams that I cheer on a lot this season, just because LBP is a part of it. Further down the list, Power. As you can see, Power disbands as well. Gus stays with the org. Luna joins Keck Dubs, and Caleb joins Bulldogs, which, again, we'll go through the new rosters momentarily, but for now, we're just going through what the other rosters were. And for the other team, and Adam Baguette, as far as I know, isn't involved in OCE this season. I'm not sure where he is this season, but he's not, as far as I know, involved in OCE so far. But he seemingly has a tendency to come and go at times, so he might be back at some point. We'll find out. And the final team that was in that top 5, the big 5 of OCE last season was I'm Fine in the West with Laxon, Shaw's, and Scrub, and Decker as well as the coach. That roster has also disbanded, with Laxon going to Keck Dubs, Shaw's joining You Not a Champ, You a Clown, and Scrub joining Turkish FC. So, now that we've gone through all of those teams that disbanded, on the other side as well, we'll just touch on the teams outside of that, the sort of 6 to 8 sort of teams. I don't know if they technically were 6 to 8 in the final standings, but they're sort of up there. You got your Scrimsword last season with Cobbo, Hawk, and Creed, or at least Scrimsword for the second split. Cobbo, Hawk, Creed, they seemingly have all gone separate ways. Sarani, Finn, Pagsy, and Fades. 2 of those have stuck. Fades has now joined Turkish FC. Uguain for Zen, Nasty, and Shugs. 2 of those have stuck, and they've brought in another one, which again we'll get into momentarily. But for the rosters this season, wildcard, of course, stuck Torsos, Fever, Banana Head Jimmer, Power, Gus, Fiber, Super Lucky, and Freaky, who was the gameplay coach, I believe, on Chiefs last season. LBP was the mental coach. Freaky was the gameplay coach at the end of the season, at least. So Fiber, Freaky joining up on Power. Gus stays on Power. Super Lucky leaving TSM to go play on Power. Super Lucky and Fiber joining back up again. I can't think off the top of my head, the other combinations potentially between these players before. There's probably stuff there, but I can't think of it right now. But that being said, Super Lucky and Fiber, they've played before. They played on, I think, Ground Zero together. I would have to fact check myself on that, but I think that was the case. So they're back together playing again for Power now. The Bulldogs, who actually will get into the current event soon, did upset Wildcard in the Swiss stage, though. Hunter, Kaka, Caleb, Kaka, Hunter played together 2 seasons ago at the end of 2024 for the Chiefs. They had a decent little combination there. That was with Finn at the point in time. Of course, Hunter and Kaka also played at the EWC that they got the top 8 in. So a lot of experience playing together internationally as well. Caleb joins over from Power, who had a superb season last season. Caleb really looked strong last season. I was talking to him up in the off-season. Then he played really well during the season as well. Of course, a part of some big upsets. Turkish FC, Amphis from TSM, Scrub over from the I'm Fine in the West roster, and Fades as well, as I said, coming from Sarani. So making that step up. Fades hasn't been a part of sort of those top 5 teams as of recently. I can't remember any time. I think he's sort of always been around that sort of top 8 sides. Now making that step up into playing with Amphis and Scrub. I'm pretty certain those two would have played at some point together, probably on KCP. Again, I'd have to fact check. Just don't quote me on it. But I'm pretty certain they've probably played together before. They bring Fades up into a potential top 4 roster and form Turkish FC. And then Keck Dubs, Luna, Laxon, Keckles. Luna and Laxon, of course, playing together last season. At the start of the season, there was kind of a mutual agreement, is what I was told, between the two players going, at least Laxon leaving the roster at that point in time and going over to I'm Fine in the West. They brought in Caleb then as well for the Power roster at that time, ex-Grimswald at that point as well. But they're back together, Luna and Laxon running it back. They brought up Keckles, who, again, one of those players that probably even viewed sort of lower down the ladder than Fades was, but seemingly he's popped up. He's been grabbed by Luna and Laxon. They've brought him up into another potential top 4 team, and we'll see what they can do with that I'm always interested to see these players who are sort of outside of the top teams, see what they can do when they get grabbed and put into that really high-pressure situation. We'll see what they're able to do, what they're capable of in those positions. It's exciting. I do look forward to seeing these teams play early on into this season just to get the feeling of what they're up to. Further down the list, You Not a Champ, You a Clown, one of those teams that have ex-players on it, / coaches that, could be amongst it. They could be doing something. They did post something on Twitter about, hey, look, if you're losing to part-timers, what are you doing? But they're still a very good roster. Mock, of course, coaching TSM last season. Dougie / Decker, of course, coaching I'm Fine in the West last season. And Shaw's playing for I'm Fine in the West last season. As you can see over on the right-hand side, You Not a Champ, You a Clown. Mock and Dougie Decker return to playing after being coaches. Mock last played in OCE Open 6. That was RLCS 2024. People will remember the sort of controversial Mock subbing in for Fiber at that point, and they actually did make the World Championship and the major at that. Actually, I don't think they made the major. I think they only made the World Championship, if I'm correct. They lost the chance to play at the major, but they kept their spot for the World Championship in the end. Fiber came back in, though, and Mock was back to coaching at that point in time. Not sure when he last played properly, probably a couple of seasons before that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Decker last played in 2021. We won't go into all the situation there. It's been a long time since that, but I'm sure people know what the situation was back then. And first time stepping back onto the field since then. So exciting times to see what this You Not a Champ, You a Clown roster are capable of. Looking forward to seeing... are they a top 6 side? Could they push for top 4? Or are they going to be like any other team in, NA and EU, that form of sort of older players? What happens there? Typically, they don't do too well, but they do have Shaw's on the roster as well, which, of course, has been playing consistently at a high level. So potentially a big chance to keep them involved and potentially put them in the conversations for a top 4, maybe. We'll see what happens. Really, speculation at this stage. We have no idea what the situation's going to be. I do believe... And again, we'll get into it fully, but they did go 3-1 through Swiss, so not too bad in Open 1. Then up next, Miami Metro, Misty Bal, Yuxi. Misty Bal, 2 names that are pretty familiar if you watch OCE. Yuxi, one that's not so familiar, but is a very talented player. Looking forward to seeing what they can do. Miami Metro also did go 3-1 through the Swiss, if I remember correctly. I think they lost to the Bankstown Bulldogs, the team that I'm currently team streaming for. And they had a really close series to another team that I think was Lethal Esports down here. Not certain. I'm pretty sure it was that situation, though. I'll check before we get to the Lethal Esports part of it. But Misty Bal, very decent players, should be seeing, potential top 8s, potential top 6, top 4s. We'll see, depending on poor performances from other rosters, potentially. But, that top 6 sort of area, probably expected for Miami Metro. Now, the teams below this are sort of interesting ones. I'm not sure where to put them. I kind of just wanted to fill out this page a little bit more. So I put in a couple of extra rosters on there. Some very good rosters, don't get that wrong, but it's sort of... there was a few rosters that could have potentially gone on these spaces. I think I chose the ones that probably have the most experienced names. So for Vade Esports, Volt and Nasty there. Grayson, the coach. Bosk, the third for that roster. Bosk, if you remember watching the last season... that I did this roster sort of video thing. Bosk was on that list for BFG. They did not perform anywhere near... I got clowned. I did get clowned for putting them on the potential team to look out for. I think made a top 32 at one point as well. So it was like, really poor performance from my prediction standpoints. But Bosk is a very good player. He's popped up. He's gone on to Vade Esports. Another org in the scene. With Volt and Nasty, who, of course, just seem to always find a way back playing with each other, and Grayson as the coach as well. For Spliced, further down the list, Zenulus, Wolftick, and Shugs. That's a decent roster. 2 of them stuck from Uguay and friends, Nasty leaving to go to Vade, but Wolftick coming in. I think Wolftick's probably got experience playing with Zen. I think that sounds familiar. I'm not certain. Again, don't quote me on this. This is a lot of don't quote me's, even though I'm trying to be the guy that, like, hey, you should ask these questions to. You know what? I'm struggling to remember things. It's fine. I'm getting old. I turned 21 a month ago. I'm old. So anyway, Spliced, Zenulus, Wolftick, Shulks should be another roster. We sort of saw, of course, we know Zenulus. Shugs popped up, sort of, I think got a top 8 potentially last season, maybe 1 or 2, I think potentially only 1. But there was a big conversation from the casters. Is it Shugs? Is it Shugs? Anyway, so I remember that being on a mainstream at one point anyway. But he's popping up. He's going to see what he can do on a very solid roster here as well, alongside the ex-teammate in Zenulus on Uguay and friends, pulling over to Wolf Tick on Spliced. And finally, one that I'm not so sure about this roster. I was watch partying bits and pieces of the event last weekend after I finished my cast, and this team did pretty well. I'll actually put it up now if I can grab the Wikipedia page. Yep, so they also went, I knew they were 4th in the Swiss for Group A, but they did 3-1. They didn't beat any team necessarily above them in standings. Everyone, I believe, was below them. They played Dumb Luck, which also finished in the top 6 of the Swiss. But other than that, the only team that really tested them, the only team that was above them that they played was Miami Metro, in which they went to game 5 with. They did lose in game 5. That was a heartbreaking loss. I was watching that one, and it was something along the lines of a 0-second goal to tie up the game for Miami, and then they scored a very not great goal in OT, if I remember correctly. So very close game against a team that I'm talking about being a top 6 roster. I'm not sure if I see this roster of Sin, Apples on Anxiety, and Fiasco being a real contender, but I thought I'd put them there since they did well in the start of the Open 1. This is kind of my outside pick. This is my, you can clown me if you want for putting them in the video, but I'm just putting them there because they had a decent result against Miami Metro. Despite they lost, they did have a decent result, so I'm kind of going, you know what? We'll see what they can provide this season. It is a roster that has ability. They're a mechanical roster, but we'll have to wait and see what they provide for the season. Hopefully you enjoy this little guide. The recording's over 30 minutes. I'm sure the video will probably be about 20 minutes once it's all cut down. We'll see what happens. But I hope this guide helps you. I hope you're interested in the RLCS season. I hope OCE gets a lot of support this season. And if you haven't already, go check out the other video I posted recently, which is the best goals of the RLCS 2025 season. On top of that, if you tune into team streams or the mainstream, which I'm hearing is not likely, at least for Open 1, so boo. But if you do tune into any of these games, any of these series, make sure to clip goals. And if you're not already, join the Discord. It'll be in the description. Join my Discord and post it into RLCS clips, so it's easy for me to make this best goals of the season next season. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope it helped. And I'll see you out in the fields. Make sure to tune into my stream for the Friday games for the Bankstown Bulldogs. I'll see you there.